This week my son went to the ER, we all caught the flu, and I realized we had way less financial margin than I originally thought. This is what discipline looks like when it's actually tested. Leading up to this, we had car troubles, a traumatic dog fight at one of our family members' homes, just a whole bunch of nonsense leading up into one of the worst weeks we've had in a while in our household. It wasn't one big crisis, it was 5, 6 little crises all combined to create one major shitstorm. You know, when your toddler's listless, running a high fever, all the other stuff goes out the window. You don't really care about your race or your productivity system or reading your pages or any of that, you know. You just want your son to be okay. You want your child to be healthy. And when I got the call from his grandmother, it really stopped me in my tracks, man. I had to call my wife. She was a mess. We all left work immediately to go meet them at the emergency room. And, you know, everything's fine now. Everyone's on the mend. We're getting through the sickness, but it was just scary to hear that kind of call. You know, it's the first time with my toddler where we've had an emergency like this, where we've had to go to the actual emergency room. And it's frightening, you know. We're getting past it now, though. Everyone's healthy. We're moving forward again. During the week of sickness, I spent some time with Claude Code, and I had it create a financial snapshot template where I basically had to provide a ton of information about my income, my expenses, debt, all types of stuff. It was pretty thorough. It took me almost 2 to 3 hours just to gather and compile all the information. And when it was all said and done, I realized that there was way less financial margin than I originally anticipated or thought. And I've been budgeting with You Need a Budget for a while now, so this was a bit of a shocker to see that there was just very little margin left at the end of the day, and it was scary to see. The next major challenge for me this week was I'm 2 to 3 weeks out from a race where I plan on racing a personal best 10K. And I don't want to lose a drop of fitness, let alone a whole week of training. I know that running while sick is just ego talking, but it's still tough to just sit back for an entire week and do nothing when I want to be out there training and working towards this big goal that I have of qualifying for the Boston Marathon. Feels like even a single week of not training is just a setback in terms of fitness. But that's not the truth. At the end of the day, it's just a small amount of training I'm losing. It's not a ton of fitness. It's a little bit of a rebound. It just feels like a lot on top of everything else. I found another cool quote from my daily Stoic book from Ryan Holiday. I've been adding them to my little field notes here as I find good ones. This one was appropriate. You cry, I'm suffering severe pain. Are you then relieved from feeling it? If you bear it in an unmanly way? Seneca, Moral Letters. I thought this was a good one. In the past, I might have been a little dramatic when I'm sick, and I figured this was a good test for me to bear my sickness in a manly fashion, you know, just suck it up and not make it more dramatic than it needs to be. It hasn't been too awful. The first few days were the worst, and I'm totally fine now. It's all neck up from here. I'm probably going to train today, 25, 30 minutes aerobic math, get out there and not push pace or anything crazy, just see how it feels, and I'll even walk it out if I need to, but I don't suspect I'll need to. That quote helps me realize that complaining, panicking, spiraling out of control, none of that helps the situation. None of it makes you feel better at the end of the day. In fact, a lot of the times you'll feel worse after losing control in a situation like that and letting your temper fly off. At least that's what happens to me. Suffering louder doesn't reduce suffering. I had to transition into a recovery mindset this week. I kind of used it as a vacation, a sickness vacation. I gave myself some slack from hitting the daily floor, you know, all those daily tasks I'm always trying to complete to have a solid executed day. I stopped tracking calories. I stopped reading my books. I didn't go to bed on time quite a few nights, which kind of not ideal for when you're sick, but I didn't beat myself up about any of it. I didn't track my water intake. I didn't track my protein. Clearly, I wasn't training. Didn't even study multiple days in a row as well, and my test exam date is coming up here at the end of February, so, but I'm getting back on track now. As I started to feel better, I started to rebuild some consistency, started to exercise my discipline again, and dial back in and get back into the program. So here it is, Sunday. I'm back to executing my daily floor almost 100%. I'm going to start up tomorrow like nothing ever happened and go right back into Endurance OS, 100%, hitting the daily floor, training, reading, studying, tracking macros and weight, tracking calories, watching my food intake, reading, writing, studying, all of that stuff. We go back to normal and get ready for the race. You know, that's my next big goal right now, is to execute the race. We're going to hit a personal best on the 10K. And then I look forward to starting a new session of planning, and we've got an entire year of some really good stuff coming up. So I'm going to keep this video a little shorter. I almost missed it completely this week. My cadence was completely thrown off due to the sickness, but I'm glad I could sneak one in before the end of the week. Thanks, I'll see you later.